Hello everybody, we are here again after 4 months since our last live. Here is Sasha Ivanov and I'm Inal Kardanov, your host for today's Q&A session. So Sasha, I think since our last live there were a lot of very interesting and important things for Waves community. At least there was a roadshow, there were releases of the client, of smart contracts on the mainnet, there were a lot of partnerships. So can you give us some kind of your thoughts about that huge events, about that huge things?
Hi guys, nice to see you again. Long time no see. We decided to resume our Q&A sessions, and they're going to be every month from now on. I think it makes sense to be in constant touch to the community. So this is our first Q&A session after some delay. So what is going on now with Waves? Lots of things. As you know, we have had a roadshow which is now finished, and the next roadshow will be bigger because we are expanding, we're going beyond crypto and even blockchain. So our focus now is more on digital transformation. So our next events are going to be more about the applications of blockchain technology in various generic IT projects. Of course, we're going to be still focusing on blockchain, and our developers are going to attend all developer meetups all over the world, and blockchain is the core of our product, but we're going to expand because that's where the future of blockchain technology lies. It lies in its application to real world IT projects, because blockchain is going to become the basis for digital transformation, for movement towards Web 3.0 applications, which is very important. So what is happening now, we are developing Waves, and there are very many interesting things. As you know, we are launching smart contracts applications. They're live on the mainnet. Activation is going to happen in about a week, and I should actually highlight the fact that it's going to be, in my opinion, the first smart contract technical realization, completely different from Ethereum. And it's quite important because we are continuing what has been done in Bitcoin. This is non-Turing complete approach, which allows you to do a lot of things. It's going to be very big, in my opinion, because this stream of development can lead to a very different approach to smart contracts, and potentially it can become much more valuable and usable than what we have now with smart contracts. In my opinion, Ethereum smart contracts are slowly dying, and you can't see too many real-world projects done on Ethereum at the moment, and we need to have an alternative. And we do have it, and we offer it, and it is live on our mainnet. Another nice thing which I should mention is we have 1 million active wallets on our mainnet, which I think is a great milestone, and we should celebrate this because it says that we have a quite wide adoption of our blockchain. So this is 1 million active wallets. It's not just some addresses. This is wallets that have made some transactions. And of course, as you know, we are launching the version of our blockchain for enterprise, for government, which is called Vostok, and we are in talks and in actual partnership and cooperation with, actually, I think with a dozen big companies, basically with all big IT and enterprise and government companies, agencies that are around us here. So basically we are cooperating with all the players in enterprise and in government sector here in Russia, which is actually a great thing because we are quite advanced in implementing blockchain technology in the real world projects. And we are preparing the launch of Vostok mainnet, which is going to be launched around New Year. And at the same time, we are developing several prototypes for big enterprise companies and for government agencies, such as registries, like real estate registry, some project which involves a blockchain application for national railway company and similar applications. I think we're very advanced in this, and probably we are doing the most projects in blockchain in the world, so to say, because we are actually interacting with so many different companies, and we have so much expertise, and it's going to materialize into real world working projects. So we are moving in very different directions. This is like open blockchain, closed blockchain for business, and on top of that we are building a major infrastructure that actually incorporates not only blockchain but also such technologies as artificial intelligence, big data, Internet of Things. They all are going to be incorporated in our platform. So this is just the beginning of a very long development road, and we are moving really fast.
I can say only, whoa. Sounds very cool. So I think the most exciting thing about our new releases, about our news for this summer and for this month for September, I mean, I think the most exciting thing is smart contracts. Yeah. So there are a lot of questions about smart contracts, and there are a lot of talks in social networks. So the first question, sounds like, do you consider Wave smart contracts to be better than Ethereum smart contracts? Obviously, Waves is much faster, but are the smart contracts better in your opinion? And what upcoming smart contract functionality are you most excited about?
I think they're potentially better. So now we have this approach which is called non-Turing complete, which is not so flexible, seemingly at least, as in Ethereum, because potentially you can't execute all types of operations. So that's why it's called non-Turing complete. But at the same time, it does not need introduction of a new entity, gas, as in Ethereum, and it allows you to execute business logic on the blockchain, that is smart contract, for a cost of a normal transaction. And it has very big advantages, actually. And potentially, when we generalize this approach to more flexible Turing complete way, it's going to become a major alternative to Ethereum platform, because our development is very practical. There are some developments with smart contracts that are more theoretical, but we are implementing the things that we came up with like theoretically. We are trying to put them to practice, to make some real-world projects with them. So we're moving really fast, and I think that what we have now will be the most viable alternative to Ethereum quite soon, and it has a very high probability of becoming the best solution for running business logic on blockchain.
Cool. There is one small question about smart contracts. Will Wave smart contracts support two-factor authentication? If yes, how it will be implemented?
Actually, this is the other way around, because we implement two-factor authentication with smart contracts, basically. We need smart contract functionality to implement two-factor authentication. It's going to be implemented in a very neat way, and you'll see how it's going to work, because we have discussed different ideas how to implement it from the perspective of user experience, and we came up with a very nice way to implement two-factor authentication, which will involve mobile applications, QR codes, and it's going to be really smooth and usable and secure at the same time, because you can actually come up with a quite simple idea with two-factor authentication, which won't be actually safe and won't protect you from phishing. And if you do want to implement some two-factor authentication, it should allow you to be secure and to secure your applications against phishing. So you need to have real two-factor authentication, which involves your desktop, for example, and like the second factor. Yeah, so it has to be on a separate device. So there is a nice way to do this with our smart contracts, and I think in around end of October we're going to have it. So we're going to have two-factor authentication, which will secure the wallets of our users. But at the same time, they can already be secured because we have also partnered up with Ledger, and if you order Ledger, it supports Waves now. So actually you can use our wallet through the Ledger hardware, which makes our wallet quite secure, and this is a great way to actually protect your Waves and Waves tokens.
Cool. There is another question related to smart contracts. There was an idea of smart assets, but they're not included in our latest release. So there is a question: do you plan to add smart assets before Turing complete smart contracts? And when can we expect this important feature?
Actually, yes, because this is already done, and we have to somehow make sure that our smart assets approach is secure, but they're already coded, and they're going to be live in our next release around the end of November. And after that, we're going to implement Turing complete smart contracts, because smart assets are very nice thing actually, and they're very natural in our approach. So we decided not to implement them right now because it would be probably a little bit insecure. We have to really make sure that everything works, and our approach doesn't have any loopholes, and it can be attacked. So we decided to do it in stages. First stage is smart accounts, which are going to be activated on the mainnet in about a week, and at the end of November we're going to release smart assets, and hopefully, so you really can't predict this. We know how we have a couple of ideas and a couple of directions for Turing complete approach. Basically, we need to choose one path for the development, but it can take time, so I really can't say when they're going to be released on the mainnet, but it should be around spring next year. We're going to have full Turing complete applications. But at the same time, I should mention that in Vostok we're going to have full Turing complete approach quite soon, because in permissioned network, and Vostok is a permissioned network, you can implement smart contracts in a different way, and it's going to be a different development. Probably it can be incorporated somehow in Waves later, but for now it's going to be restricted to Vostok only, and you're going to be able to code your smart contracts in any language, in any programming language. It doesn't have to be JVM, it doesn't have to be some special language like Solidity. It can be any language, and they're going to be launched in Docker containers, and it allows you to basically code your contracts in any programming language.
Cool. So there is a question about Turing complete contracts. You said a lot about Turing complete contracts already, but question sounds like Waves is working on Turing complete contracts. What options do you see now to secure the blockchain with Turing complete contracts? I think that our community member is talking about a lot of security issues with Ethereum, and do you see any options to avoid that kind of problems?
So basically, we should take into account what has been done in Ethereum, factor in their experience, and make sure that we don't, step on the same rakes. Yes. So, and there are some obvious things that should be improved in Ethereum. For example, you actually can't predict if your smart contract is going to be really executed, because you have to calculate how much gas you need for computation, and if you run out of gas, smart contracts just don't execute, but you still have to pay the gas. So it makes the system a little bit unpredictable, and there is no determinism here. So I think that we should try to implement smart contracts without gas. There are ways to do that, actually. It might be not fully Turing complete, but it could allow you to make basically all sensible operations, and it can allow you to do such things as DAO and oracles and basically whatever you want to do on Ethereum. So it doesn't have to be fully Turing complete. And actually, I also should mention a nice research from our team and from guys from another project which is called Ergo, and we cooperate with them. It's Dima Mishkov and Sasha and they came up with the idea that basically if you take into account the fact that your smart contracts run on the blockchain, it makes your non-Turing complete smart contracts Turing complete, because you have to factor in actually the environment in which they run, and blockchain environment makes them Turing complete because you have an opportunity to run them over several blocks, so to say. So if you consider this as a whole, as like a complete thing, not only the language aspect, but the aspect of the environment, it makes the whole thing Turing complete. So we could also research this approach, and basically we could make sure that our smart contracts are safe, verifiably. So from the ground up, so from the first principles, which is very hard to achieve in Ethereum because it is based on the first principles, because you initially allow all types of code to be executed, and then you limit the execution by gas, and then you have to come up with ideas how you can prevent attacks and stuff like that. But probably this approach could be somehow avoided, because at the same time it's very basic, but on the other hand you run into so many different problems that you can avoid if you incorporate all those ideas of safety right into the first principles of your application. So if you, for example, do not allow one smart contract to launch another one, it's possible in Ethereum. It's possible in Ethereum when one smart contract can launch another smart contract. So if you don't allow that, it makes your system much more consistent and more secure, and you don't have to make sure that you don't run into any kind of issues with such a complicated system. So basically, there are ways to make your smart contract approach more secure. They're quite obvious, and we're going to implement them in our next smart contract release. And as you know, our current smart contract language is called Write, and the next one, full Turing complete, is going to be called Ride On. So logic is quite obvious. Ride on waves. So our Ride On language is going to be secure and more business oriented.
So to sum up, am I right that now we have non-Turing complete smart contracts, but we have somehow Turing complete system? For example, using our data transactions or using a lot of transactions and the blocks, you can use our blockchain like Turing complete system. And in future, we'll develop Turing complete language called Ride On.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, it is implemented already. We have a project with some government agency here which uses our Ride language, but at the same time it uses it in a full Turing complete way. So there are ways to circumvent all those limitations even in current systems. But of course you need to have a more flexible language, and we're working on that as well.
Okay, there's another question about smart contracts. Will the Waves team host smart contracts gateways or atomic swaps, or will it be left up to the community?
You have to really probably have to explain a couple of things here. So how we are trying to structure our development and our business. So we have a core team which actually is working on Waves core and which is working on Vostok core. And we have a marketing team, and a part of our marketing team is also community and developer relations team. And they're not only talking or like messaging to developers or talking to them in Telegram chats, they are trying to provide some best practices and use cases for the community. And they're trying to also create some prototypes and launch some projects. So this is like applications on top of Waves, but they're also very important for us. So we can't actually let some other teams do that very important things for us. So there is like a core team, there's also a team which builds applications, which is very important for the development of Waves ecosystem. So some applications of Waves blockchain are going to be coded by ourselves because it is more secure, and for us it is like better because we have to make sure that it's going to be done. I think that such things as atomic swaps are going to be coded by us. If someone else does it, it's nice, it's no problem, and we're going to support them. But at the same time, we're going to do it on our own because we need to have this application, because this is an application which is very close to the core of our development. So probably we will, and we have a prototype for atomic swaps, and after the smart contracts have been activated, we're going to be building some kind of a smart, some kind of a atomic swap server. Is going to be somehow centralized a little bit, because without some degree of centralization, atomic swaps are not so usable, in my opinion, because you need to have some kind of matching of different swaps. So you have to match different users who want to swap coins, and for that you need some kind of centralization. It's a very mild centralization, so to say, because the actual transfer is on the blockchain, but you just have to pair the orders. And that thing could make atomic swaps usable, because you do have some prototypes now for atomic swaps, but not so many people use it. At least I don't know any atomic swap applications which are really widespread.
Cool. There's another question. Almost same, honestly. But to sum up, can we soon expect any big dApps using smart contracts like atomic swaps or any other, or can we soon expect any partnerships?
Of course, because we do implement our smart contracts approach with all the partners that we are actually interacting with. Of course, we're going to see very many applications of our smart contracts technology, and people are building on our right language already, on our non-Turing complete language. And of course, they're going to be building on our full Turing complete language, which we have in Vostok, which runs in Dockers. And of course, they're going to be building on our future write-down language.
We talked a lot about Vostok, so there is a question related to Vostok. How complete the current version of smart contracts will satisfy needs of Vostok platform? Could you provide examples?
So as I just said, basically we have a couple of projects that are trying to use and that are using our non-Turing complete approach to run actual business logic for their projects. For example, a real estate agency, they are doing this with our non-Turing complete approach. And you'll be able to run any type of smart contracts applications on Vostok quite soon, because it allows for any type of basically programs, because it supports any types of programming languages within Docker containers. So basically compile your code into Docker code, and it runs within a Docker and in a safe environment, and potentially it can execute any type of applications, whatever you need. So this approach is very hard to move to to an open blockchain, because in this approach you must make sure that there are no bad players in the system, and if there are some, you have to be able to actually eliminate them immediately. So in a permissioned setting, it works much more secure. But this is what enterprise needs now. They need to run blockchains, they need to run some decentralized systems. They might be not completely decentralized, but they need to have some degree of decentralization because you really can't move towards a completely decentralized applications. Right now, blockchain technology is not so young, it's about 10 years old, but actually we must admit that we didn't have too many new ideas since the launch of Bitcoin. So to move into the totally decentralized society or like decentralized IT infrastructure, probably we need to come up with some new ideas. So at the same time, we need to implement decentralization because this is what enterprise business needs. So you need to come up with some transitory solution, and permissioned ledgers are exactly that. So you provide what business needs. At the same time, you can just wait and work on open blockchains, and potentially they can merge into one system. For now, you are actually achieving your goals with permissioned blockchains. And in permissioned blockchains, you'll be able to run any type of smart contracts, any type of programs. It is quite easy to do, and we're gonna offer a more flexible way than you have in our competitors such as Hyperledger and other projects. So you'll be able to run your smart contracts which are coded in any language, which makes our approach quite unique.
There is another question about Vostok. Why there is no connection between Vostok and Waves tokens? Can't Vostok take all the success because that's what businesses want right now?
Of course, there's going to be some connection, and you have to understand that Vostok is a part of Waves ecosystem. This is like a Waves department for enterprise and for government services. As I just said, you can't run the applications which enterprise and government need on open blockchains. So you have to come up with some transitory, some intermediary solution. That's what Vostok is. But this is like a part of Waves, and of course, these two projects, they are actually the same, more or less. They complement each other, and there is some kind of a synergy. Yes, this word is very often misused, but in this case, I actually can use it. There is synergy, of course. There is the same community of developers that works on both projects, and there is interaction between them, and you can implement something on Waves and then transfer it to Vostok and the other way around. And of course, there's going to be more direct connection. For example, you'll be able to do atomic swap between tokens on Vostok and the token on Waves chain. Also, you'll be able to, for example, you'll be able to secure in a way a Waves chain or any open chain. With Vostok, you can, for example, put some root hashes of your blocks on Vostok chain, which secures the Waves chain. So there can be very many ways to somehow incorporate those two chains into one thing which offers you whatever you need. If you want to run like small type of project or medium type of project which needs open blockchain, you are good with Waves. If you need to run a more secure application, like an application which can pass through any type of audit, because I don't think any type of open blockchain can go through like an audit of a security department of any big enterprise company, because open blockchains at the moment are not so secure. You don't have any guarantee that there are no forks, and potentially there can be a fork in such systems. You have no finality guarantee, so you need to offer some other approach here. So But at the same time, if you run small or medium sized project, you are good with Waves, and there is less limits, there is less rules, there is less regulations, and you can just launch your token and use it in your application and not ask anybody whether you are allowed to do so. In Vostok, we are focusing on like real world use cases where you need to ask like regulators whether you're allowed to run some kind of business. Yes, so this project is like for real regulated world where you have to comply with laws, where you have to comply with regulations, and you just can't run a token and do an unregulated ICO without running into problems with law, with government. So Vostok is for bigger scale projects, and Waves is for the future, so to say. Yes, it's like there's a system which potentially is going to be merged with the closed chain, and they're going to be the same. Yeah, because the future, of course, belongs to open blockchains. When they are ready technically. When they're ready technically, everything is going to run on open blockchains, and all our IT infrastructure is going to run on some type of a future blockchain or whatever it's going to be called. I don't know, maybe it's not going to be a chain of blocks. It can have some other structure, but blockchain is just the first step in that direction. Of course, our future belongs to open decentralized systems.
There's another question about Vostok. The Vostok project website used to have information about token stages, prices, etc. But that has been removed from the page. Have you changed your plans? And I think our community is interested in, will we see some details about Vostok soon?
Absolutely. Now we are actually working with private investors and big investment companies which really want to be a part of Vostok, which want to invest in Vostok. So this is just the first part, because in this project we really go to traditional investors and traditional IT players, because this is a product which is made for real world, so to say. Yes, so it just we are trying to give people in enterprise and in government what they need. So we are talking to people who are like more traditional, and we really want to somehow bring blockchain technology over to them, explain that this is the future, our vision, and we are working with bigger type of companies now. But we're going to have a public token sale, of course, for Waves holders. If you are a Waves holder, and only if you are a Waves holder, we won't accept any other cryptocurrencies. You're going to be able to swap your Waves token into Vostok tokens with a good discount. We don't need that. Like from the perspective of our like fundraising campaign, but we need to make sure that Waves holders are not left behind and have an opportunity to participate in Vostok project.
Cool. There is a question about airdrops. Vostok airdrop will be for Waves or Waves community token holders?
Yeah, it's going to be for Waves, and Waves community holders are going to get more tokens. So it's going to be some kind of a bonus for WCT holders.
Cool. I think that they're happy right now.
Yeah.
There is a question about our market. What are the plans to market and scale about adoption with the Waves smart contracts platform? Speed and easy to use user experience alone may not help, as we have seen in the past. So what are we going to do about our marketing?
Yeah, so basically this is an interesting topic, and it's quite important for us because we are moving beyond crypto. I don't think that if you focus on crypto marketing, you're going to succeed. At this stage, it doesn't make any sense to focus exclusively on crypto. you have to go beyond, you have to go to traditional IT companies, and you're gonna actually market your product as a platform for Web 3.0. It's not just some kind of a blockchain platform. This is a platform on which we're going to run the digital transformation. So this is our pitch, and we're going to really work on that pitch, and we are starting to work on that pitch, and we are starting to go not to some crypto media. We are going to go to traditional media, and we are working with traditional media, and partnerships here in Russia are very well publicized. For example, the last partnership with Russian national tech company, probably around 150 publications appeared within 24 hours after we have signed a memorandum with Rostec. So and it's going to be not only in Russia, it's going to be also on international level. So we are moving towards like mass adoption. This is what crypto community always wanted, mass adoption. So to achieve mass adoption, you definitely need to go beyond cryptos, and that's what we are exactly doing. We are building a platform which has blockchain as its core, but it is much more than simply a blockchain.
So am I right that we will not go deeper into the crypto, we will take crypto to more usual
Absolutely,
fits?
absolutely. But of course we're going to be working on all the technical aspects of blockchain technology, because this is just, I think this is just still a very initial stage of the development of any type of decentralized ledgers. This is just a first step that we have made, and maybe in 20 years the systems that we have now are gonna actually the people will think that they were really basic, and the future systems will be much more advanced. So we're just making the first steps in that direction, but at the same time you already have to create some kind of holistic platform which incorporates blockchain, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, all those things within one platform. And you can do that already on permissioned blockchains. Why it didn't happen before? Because we were focused more as a community, as a crypto community, we were focused more on open blockchains and permissioned ledgers. They are very obvious, and people have been working on them since maybe 4 or 5 years, if you take into account Ripple, for example. But they're still not the focus of crypto community, and they are just starting just now. They're just starting up, even permission chains, and the future, like the future in terms of like short term, like several years ahead, it belongs to permission chains. Maybe it's not so good because people want total decentralization, but this is the reality, and they can really make a difference. And they can make systems really more decentralized, because you need to
maybe more trustless.
Sure, because we do have this problem, everybody knows, and it's like a big problem now. It moved beyond pure like IT issues to like some kind of geopolitical issues. What you have with Facebook now, so, and what you have with like all those hacking allegations and stuff like that. So you need to implement systems that can be hacked in such an easy way. Yes, so this is my pitch that I'm trying to probably. This is like a topic for another time, but because we are talking more about Waves and we are talking to Waves community, but our pitch is like our generic pitch is we need to somehow replace social consensus with a technical one. It's going to be very slow, of course, but you can actually take some processes which need some kind of social consensus, which work with supervision of a central authority, and replace them with a technical approach in which you just cannot break the rules, because you can't break them. You can't, because there is a protocol which works, and you just can't go beyond this protocol. And I think it's very important for the development of society as a whole to implement this approach into more and more real-world systems. So this is our goal. So as for marketing, we are doing a lot of marketing. It's more focused on Vostok now, but this is our plan. And very soon, Vostok marketing is going to catch up with Waves marketing, and Vostok is going to be pushing Waves, and Waves is going to be pushing Vostok. And they're going to be moving together towards growth and towards a system which is usable and applicable for any type of applications that need distributed ledgers.
So to sum up and to make it a little bit more clean, now we have Waves. It's fully open, decentralized blockchain, but we can't use it for a lot of things, for a lot of use cases. We have Vostok, which is more applicable for huge companies, for enterprise, for example. Their marketing, they're related, but now we are focusing more on Vostok, but in near future they'll go together and we'll work on both of them. So from the technical point of view, you said that in near future, maybe 10 or 12 or 20 years, we will see some kind of, I don't know, shift in the technology in decentralized sense. Am I right? So,
absolutely.
So we need it to improve our open blockchain.
Yeah, because what we have now, we have the idea of decentralization, which is more important and valuable than the actual systems that we have. So actual systems don't matter that much. People understand the idea of decentralization, and they say, please implement those nice, cool things in our old school bad application, and you need to come up with some technical solution, and you just can't implement Ethereum or Waves for that matter, because it won't pass through any type of security audit of a big company, because you have a general problem, general security problem with all open blockchains. So you just create a system which combines the security of all systems and the approach of blockchain technology. That's what we are doing now, and this is just a part of Waves ecosystem. So it's not a separate project, it's just a part of Waves. This is a part of a very big ecosystem, which is Waves.
Before we continue, I'd like to say thank you to all our viewers who are online right now. And you can go to YouTube, to Slido, you can find links in our Telegram channel, and you can send your question right now. And if the question is interesting, maybe we will answer your question. So go to the Telegram or YouTube and ask there your questions if you have any. So another question is also about market, I think. CoinMarketCap doesn't list Waves tokens anymore unless they're traded on one more exchange. So why do they have this negative policy about us?
I think CoinMarketCap is flooded with different tokens, and they just have to make their website more clean. And it's not about waste; it's just about representation. And I don't think there is a big problem here. So I don't think you have to focus on CoinMarketCap exclusively, because I think very soon you'll see crypto tokens trading at NASDAQ, for example. So CoinMarketCap is like the thing of yesterday. Just move forward and don't focus on like some old projects, because world is moving very fast, and people who are focusing on like things that were hip like 2 years ago are always left behind, and they are not so successful. So just don't pay too much attention to some old projects. CoinMarketCap is a great thing, and they were the first, but still you need to understand that the whole world is moving beyond CoinMarketCap, and when you see tokens trading at like real stock exchanges, probably you won't care so much about CoinMarketCap.
So we can say that follow us, don't go only to websites about crypto, go to more...
Sure, and they do have like millions of tokens. How many tokens have been issued within last 2 years? millions, guys. Probably they can't list all of them. So I think it's totally normal and totally fine.
Yeah. So there are a lot of questions about DEX. So let's try to answer at least a few of them. So hi Sasha, what happened with the idea of Waves DEX as standalone exchange? You remember that voting poll about that on your Telegram channel?
Sure. So we are moving forward with that, and it's probably we can do some kind of a pre-announcement. We're gonna launch a separate DEX for security tokens, and not only them, within our tokenomica project, which you also probably know and remember. And now we are talking to different regulators. I have talked to multiple regulators. A guy from our team, Artyom, today is talking to Liechtenstein regulators, and we're gonna come up with a place where it is more suitable to be based like legally. And after that, we're gonna separate all our business infrastructure, which involves fiat gateways, crypto gateways, which are supported by Coinomet at the moment. And we're going to add to that our security trading platform, maybe centralized exchange, maybe not, we are thinking about that. And we're going to launch a separate project, which is going to support all the business infrastructure on top of Waves blockchain. And we and actually myself are going to be more focused on actual development, and this infrastructure is going to be separated and it's going to be a separate project. And it will include security trading platform as an essential part of it, because this is what is happening now. I think it's very natural, because all the tokens that you issue are actually not utility tokens. This is some kind of, a fake, so to say, because probably it's a little bit too rude to call all these utility tokens fake, but the approach is, is quite tricky, because basically if you issue a token on Ethereum which somehow works within your prototype application, and you promise people that it's going to be also usable within your product, like production system, it's a security token, because you do make a promise, and when you promise something, it's a security, it's not utility. So basically all the token issues on Ethereum, on Waves, are in a way security tokens. So this is a nice development which is happening now when people understand this, and of course you need to somehow make the two worlds merge, the traditional financial world, which works on stock exchanges, and emerging crypto world. They're basically becoming two parts of one thing, and the border between them is going to be more vague quite soon, and they're going to be somehow merged into one thing. So all the financial markets which you have now are going to be run on the blockchain as well.
There's another question about Waves DEX. Waves DEX volume seem to have decreased lately. What is the cause of this?
Yeah, so we are not trying to conceal anything. We are constantly working on our DEX. It's going to be somehow separated into different projects very soon. There is a couple things that we have to improve, a couple bugs, actually, to be honest, which have to be eliminated. There is some bug now which doesn't allow you to trade normally with trading bots. So it's going to be actually done away with quite soon. It is a matter of several days, hopefully at least a week or maybe 10 days. And after that, volumes are going to be bigger, because now we have this problem with bots, because people, I can go into details, no problem about that. So when you run a trading bot, there is an issue with tradable balance. And if you want to run an algorithmic trading bot, you just don't know how much money you have. So you can actually circumvent those issues, but people just wait until we fix this. And it's going to be fixed quite soon. And then we'll take our DEX and we'll make a separate project out of it, which is actually blockchain agnostic. And you'll be able to run our DEX not only on Wave chain, but also on Vostok chain, and potentially can run it on Ethereum, and maybe even we will provide a version for Ethereum tokens. Because I think it's a valid idea. It shows that the core of our DEX is blockchain agnostic and can be run with any chain.
Do you have understanding how it's going to work, for example, for Ethereum? Will it work like atomic swaps, or how it's going to work?
Yeah, so basically our approach is centralized matching for decentralized objects. So actual transfer is on the blockchain, so potentially you can trade ERC20 tokens in the same manner. So you have centralized matching, which is fast, really fast, but the actual transfer is on the blockchain. And we'll also decentralize DEX because I want that you can run DEX on several servers which interact among themselves, so it's not so, even on the matcher level, it's not so centralized. You have to run it on several matchers to make the system completely decentralized, and because people are asking us, it's not so decentralized. It is decentralized, guys, because the actual transfer is on the blockchain, and matcher actually can't cheat you. So because if it cheats you, it's quite obvious. But to make this completely robust and hacker-proof, no, not even hacker-proof, maybe like abuse-proof, you have to decentralize it among several matchers, and probably this is the next step of development of our DEX. And after that, we're going to be pitching our DEX to real-world stock exchanges. And we have been in discussion with, for example, with Moscow Stock Exchange. They're quite interested, and this is the future of stock exchanges. They're going to be running some kind of blockchain applications, and this is quite obvious that blockchain can help them make the whole business process more streamlined, because they have very many issues. Because I looked into how some exchanges work, they have very many issues with settlement, with trading is fast, but you have to wait like 3 days before you actually can obtain your stocks you bought 3 days ago. So blockchain will allow you to make more streamlined, more efficient, even cost-efficient systems. And after we fix all the bugs, and we can really start pitching our DEX to stock exchanges and run more serious type of tokens, and which are connected to securities on our DEX.
So we can expect some kind of distributed matcher, am I right?
Absolutely. So this is the next goal. We fix the bugs, we make it work perfectly, and then we separate it and make make another DEX for security tokens, launch tokenomica finally, and at the same time we develop it as a separate project which can be implemented not only on Waves chain but also on other chains, and also can be offered to real-world stock exchanges.
Okay, there is a question about liquid token. When will we finally see it in action? Which is very important for small projects that want to have liquidity on Waves.
Actually, yeah, it's done. Technically, website is being finalized, and either like on Friday or Monday, Tuesday next week, we're going to announce the launch of our liquidity platform, because we have a separate trading department, trading unit now, and they are working on different projects. One of them, and probably the most important of them, is a liquid token, because you need to provide this liquidity mechanism for token issuers on Waves. So basically, it's a good question, because it's going to be launched like the next thing which is going to be launched and announced on Waves is a liquidity project.
There's a question about, related with DEX also, lots of fake tokens which make some volume and DEX are damaging the ecosystem of Waves. That's that's the opinion of our listener. Do you have plans to protect the ecosystem? For example, do you have plans to increase the token issuing price up to 10 Waves or even more?
Probably not. We are going to make what we do as compliant as possible, so all the tokens that are supported within our client that we support are going to go through some kind of compliance at least. So there can be two stages of this compliance. Within Tokenomica we'll have the most strict rules for compliance. Maybe within the client we'll have more lenient rules, but at the same time there's going to be some kind of compliance. And potentially when we decouple DEX from our core, everybody will be able to run their own DEX, issue their own tokens, and you have to actually make sure that this level of decentralization remains in your system even if you go towards compliance. So if you potentially want to run some kind of a shady token, install your DEX and do whatever you want. But we have no connection to this, and we don't support that, and we don't want to know anything about it.
So there is an interesting question. You have mentioned about developing games on Waves as well as artificial intelligence. Is there an estimated date for when development will start?
Yeah, so Waves gaming is already starting, so people are working on two things. They're working on some kind of a guideline for developers, for blockchain developers who want to run projects that involve Waves chain in their gaming applications. At the same time, we are going to showcase one game on Waves chain. It is going to be like some kind of a best practices case which will show people how they can use Wave chain. So we're going into two directions, developer interaction and a project which is going to show how you can use Wave chain. So they're both actually under development, and soon you'll hear some announcement about Waves gaming. As for AI, it's going to happen a little later, and we are focusing more on Vostok now. As soon as we are finished with Waves with Vostok main chain launch, we're going to be launching so-called special projects, which will involve Waves AI, Waves, I think, big data, and Waves Internet of Things. So this is the most obvious development of our the directions of our development, because we are trying to somehow present ourselves as Web 3.0 company. Yeah, so we are not about blockchain, we are about Web 3.0, and we understand that the essential part of Web 3.0 transaction transformation is blockchain technology. So we're going to be building applications which have blockchain as their core, but at the same time they incorporate very different ideas and very different technologies. So we're going to be doing that in stages, because now we are focusing on our current interactions, prototypes, and projects that we are doing with like dozen companies. And after that we're going to be launching one by one different departments of Waves, Waves Gaming, Waves AI, Waves Internet of Things, Waves Big Data, and so on.
So going back to gaming, you said that we're doing some kind of guidelines how to use Waves. Am I right that it's, for example, how to take Waves blockchain, create assets there, I mean tokens, integrated into your game? Is it true, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So you need to showcase the abilities of Wave chain, because it's probably the fastest blockchain. You can issue a token in a very easy way. You can send like 500 transactions per second with mass transfer now, and it's very nice for gaming applications. Also, we'll be working on non-fungible tokens, which are a big thing in Ethereum ecosystem, and we understand that people already know what non-fungible tokens are, and they understand how they can incorporate in their tokenizations of some kind of gaming items. So we're going to be working on non-fungible tokens as well. Technically it will be very different from Ethereum, but from the perspective of implementation, it will hopefully allow you to do the same or even much more than you can do on Ethereum chain now.
There are a lot of questions about crypto island Malta. So can you tell us a little bit more about the partnership with Malta? What does it mean for Waves?
Yeah, so we're going to be starting a company in Malta, because Malta is really serious about blockchain technology. So they are serious. So it's not about some kind of a hype. The government knows everything about the blockchain, about the development. Financial Authority of Malta is very well versed in blockchain technology. It's true, yeah. So they really want to become some kind of a blockchain island, because it's important for them, because it's a small island, as you probably know, very small, and they're making lots of money now, for example, from licensing of online gaming. Yeah, like 30% of their GDP comes from online gaming licensing. And blockchain for them is just another step in this evolution, so they're really serious. And this is a part of European Union, which is very nice. So it won't be so fast, I must say, because as a part of European Union, they have to be really cautious and compliant and comply with all European regulations. So it won't be fast, but I think that they have a very good opportunity to become a blockchain hub, and we're going to be launching our tokenomica platform and our decentralized security tokens application within Malta legal framework as well. So we are finalizing the roadmap for legal setup now. As I mentioned, there is also Liechtenstein, Singapore, so we have to understand how we can legally do that. Maybe we can be present in all those locations when maybe we can focus on one of them, but Malta is going to become one of our locations where we actually do business.
Okay, so there was a question about smart contracts. 1 minute, please. So the main idea of the question is that will we see some kind of user interface about smart contracts in the client? Will it be so easy to use like all other Waves products?
Sure. So we, a part of Vostok team, is working on some kind of visual interface for creating smart contracts, and of course they're going to be actually implemented on Waves, because as I told you guys, Waves and Vostok development is the same, and they're like unified. There is no like separation between them. So what you have on Vostok, you'll have on Waves, and the other way around. So of course we're working on visual implementation of this, because this is very important for Vostok. Maybe even more important than for Waves, because Vostok is more focused on business applications, and business people don't want to really, go too deep into details. They just want to have some graphic representation of what they want to do, and they want just to have some visual applications. So, of course, we'll have this.
Okay, cool. So maybe you have maybe you can find some questions interesting for you, Andy.
Yeah. So let me just take a look.
Yeah.
I think we have to finish slowly, but probably I'll answer to a couple more questions. Guys, if I don't answer to the questions you're asking, please don't be offended, because there are too many questions, and I answer to the most of them. As people are asking about MRT, and the questions about this is a very important question, because you keep asking this about if Waves holders could be hurt from Vostok, or are they going to be left behind? No, guys. I told you many times, and I'll be repeating this again. This is a part of some kind of, holistic thing. So this is one thing. So they're not different. They are not separated. So everybody is gonna be benefiting from another project. So if you are a Waves holder, probably you're gonna be happy with Vostok development as well. It includes also all those questions about MRT WCT, of course, they're going to be used, and for example, MRT, WCT, when we launch smart assets, we're going to announce a roadmap for MRT and WCT as well. We'll make sure that people who hold those tokens are going to be benefiting from this. About profitability of mining is growing, as you might notice if you follow Waves chain. So probably now it's around 2.5% per year. And when we launch smart contracts, it's going to become more, because I think that smart contracts are going to make Waves chain more usable, and there are going to be more applications. So 5% that are mentioned at our website is a reality, and we are targeting around 5% profitability for leasing and for mining, because mining, we have this miners incentivization program now. So if you run a node, we can just lease some funds to you, and you're going to be at least making enough money to pay for your server and some more. So it's quite profitable. It's becoming profitable now. And don't forget that you don't need to buy any expensive hardware to run mining on Waves. You just need to buy some very simple VPS server and install the node, and it doesn't take much effort to do that, and you don't need to pay for electricity or buy some hardware. Very many different things.
There are some questions about smart contracts, about how does it work without gas, about how to start writing smart contracts. I think it's just better just to go to our documentation, and you can find there tutorials how to start writing. You can find the documentation also how it works without gas, just with fixed fee, etc. So guys, if you have questions about smart contracts, the best way to understand it is go to docs.wavesplatform.com.
Yeah.
And also there are a lot of links in our social networks about, there are articles about, there are video about it, so there are a lot of materials, so you can go there and you can find it in our social networks, I think.
Yeah, basically the questions that I can see now, they are all repeating the questions I have already replied to. Yeah. So guys, I think I tried at least to explain to you what we are doing. Probably it's quite hard to do that within 1 hour. There are so many things going on, so just stay in touch, stay tuned, follow our social networks. We're going to be more active on social networks. Me personally, I think it's quite important to be more active, and I'm going to be doing this quite soon. Now I'm focusing more on very many partnerships, and it takes up all of my time, basically. But it's going to be over soon when this is more settled, and because this is this is a very fast-moving market and new technology, and it's changing every day. So bear with us. We're working basically for you, because as you know, the motto of Waves blockchain is blockchain for the people, and what we do is for the people. I really stand by those words. What we do not for us, not for money. We do this like for everybody. We do this for the people. So stay tuned, and see you soon.
So yeah, guys, thank you. Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you. Все, да?